Hello friends, welcome to the English class. In this video, we are going to learn the poem Rice. The poem was written by Chemmanam Chako and was translated by Mr. Professor K. Ayyappapanika. Okay, so in this poem, the poet tries to satire the habit of Keralites, especially the farmers. So it is a satire, a satirical poem. You must have heard the word satirical or satire. A satire means a humorous talk against some evils, some social evils that exist. Okay, so in this poem, the poet satires the habit of Keralites, that of borrowing others, depending on others, even in the basic needs. Okay, anyway, we'll learn about the poem deeply before going deep into the poem. Let's see about the author and the translator. Okay, about the author, Professor Chemmanam Chako. Right, Chemmanam Chako was born on March 7, 1926 in the village of Mulakulam in erstwhile Travancore. In former Travancore, there was a place named Mulakulam, and he was born there in 1926. He has created a space for himself in Malayalam poetry. He has his own space in Malayalam poetry. He is a master satirist who has fought many a battle with the system through his writings. So he is a satirist. Satirist, I told you, satirist is a person who laughs at some social evils that exist in society through his writings, who criticizes. Right. Okay, so he is a master satirist who has fought many a battle with the system through his writings. The poet, who has many literary works to his credit, has always reacted to his surroundings with pungent words. So with powerful verses, powerful poems, with powerful lines, he has always fought against the social evils existed in the society. So that's Professor Chemmanam Chako. And the poem was translated by Dr. K. Ayyappapanika. Okay, 1932-2006. Was an influential Malayalam poet, literary critic and academic, and a renowned scholar. He was one of the pioneers of modernism in Malayalam poetry, and his seminal work, Kurukshetram, is considered a turning point. His influential work named Kurukshetram was very much read, and it could create some changes in the society. It was the turning point in his life. In an academic career which ran in consonance with his literary one, spanning 4 decades. So along with his academic career, his literary career was span 44 decades. 4 decades means 40 years. He was a well-known teacher of English in various colleges and universities before retiring as the director, Institute of Engineering, Institute of English, University of Kerala. So he also was a very well-known scholar and a Malayalam poet, and at the same time he was an academician. Okay, now let's move to the poem. Before starting the poem, what are the important points in the poem? Let's have a look. Important points to remember. Satirical poem by Chemmanam Chako. Rice is a satirical poem. Right, so I already told you what does the word satire mean. Satire means to humorously comment on some social evils exist through works like poems, stories, and novels, right? So it is said to be satire or satirical. It is a satirical poem by Chemmanam Chako. Satirizes society for abandoning food crops for cash crops. So he satires the society for avoiding food crops for cash crops. So they stopped cultivating food crops and started cultivating cash crops. Okay, poet finds paddy fields replaced for cash crops cultivation. So the poet finds that paddy fields, Keralites used to cultivate paddy in plenty before decades, but later they changed their habit and they started to plant money crops like rubber and palm trees, things like this. Okay, areca trees like that. So they changed their habit and they started to cultivate cash crops. People are after commercial farming. So he says people are running behind commercial farming instead of cultivating a paddy, necessary things. They have changed their mindset. First part of the poem about poet's expectation, dream, and second part is reality. So the poem has been split into two, and the first part is about his dream and his expectation, right? And the second part is what is the reality. Okay, poem is a sharp contrast between expectation and reality. So that as it is in two parts, and the first part is the dream and the expectation of the poet, and the second part is about the reality. It is a sharp contrast. It's a comparison between what is reality and what is expectation. Okay, the poem mourns the loss of fields to commercial plantation. So it is a mourning, and it is written just like an elegy, right? Because the poet mourns the loss of cultivation of paddy fields to that of the commercial plantation. Okay, so that's the poem. And before we start to read the lines of the poem, I'll tell you a brief summary of the poem. The poet talks, as we said, the poem has been written in two parts. In the first part, he speaks about his expectation and his dream. Right, the poet has been there in North India to pursue his degree, and after his higher studies of 3 to 4 years, he was coming back to his native place, and he was fed up with having chapati and other things made of wheat, and at the same time he was dreaming to have some atikira rice cooked by his mother. And there were so many other sides in his mind, the paddy fields and the plowing of the field, and his father wearing the mud clothes, and his brother working there in the field, and his mother cooking rice and other things to treat him. So he had a lot of expectation about his village and about the place where he was heading to. And the second part, to his disappointment, he sees all the things that were there in his beautiful village has been changed. People have changed their habit of cultivating paddy, and instead they have started rubber and areca, right? And there were thatched houses there, houses having the roof of palm leaves or coconut leaves, right? And at the same time, now they have changed it to the concrete houses, and the field have been converted to the estate of rubber and palm, like this. So many changes have been taken place there. Okay, so let's come to the poem. Anyway, I come home at the end of 4 years of research in North India, having earned a doctoral degree and generous prize for my work on making toys with husk. Bored with eating chapatis day after day, I am eager to eat a meal of atikira rice. So the poet begins like, I come home, I am coming back to my home at the end of 4 years of research in North India. He was doing his research in North India, and what was he doing there? And having earned a doctoral degree and generous prize for my work on making toys with husk. The poet was doing his research on how to make toys using husk. Husk, you know, what the outer part of the rice, the outer skin of the rice. Right, the paddy that grow in the field will be taken, and when you grind it, you'll get some the skin, right? Skin of the rice, and this skin is called to be a husk, right? So his research was in that area, that how can we prepare, how can we make toys using the husk. So after his research for 4 years, he was coming back to his hometown with a lot of dream and expectation. Right, bored with eating chapatis day after day, I am eager to eat a meal of atikira rice. So in North India, as you all know, that it is chapati or wheat is more popular than any other crops, right? So he was fed up with having chapatis, and he's looking forward to have a great atikira rice. It will be the planting season when I get there. His expectation, right? As I said in the beginning itself, the first part of the poem deals with his expectation and his dream. It will be the planting season when I get there. It will be the planting season, and my father, his handloom dhoti stained with yellow mud, excited about the waters of the Waranganal Canal, will greet me from the fields below our house. So he expects that he will meet his father there in the paddy field, getting his clothes muddy, and he will be busy with turning the water there in the field. and he will greet me from the field below our house, and he will be always busy there in the field, and he won't come outside the field to greet me. He'll be greeting me, staying there in the field itself, and amidst the shouts of plowing with several oxen. So he'll be plowing with several oxen. So before cultivating paddy, you have to plow the field, right, to make it ready to be sown, right? So he'll be busy with his oxen there in the field, and he won't be coming outside to greet me. So amidst his plowing, he'll greet me standing there itself. Okay. The oxen, you all know, right? The plural of ox. The oxen will stop when they see me walking with my suitcase, and my father, without smiling, the smile slowly forming on his lips, will call from the field. And when did you start from there? Right. So the oxen will stop when they see me, because the father is doing the plowing, right? So when the father stops, automatically the oxen will stop, right? So the oxen will stop when they see me walking with my suitcase, because a new person is coming towards them, right, and carrying a suitcase, and my father, without smiling, the smile slowly forming on his lip. Actually, there was a smile, there will be a smile forming on his lip, but he won't show that. Fathers, it has been normal that fathers look more serious than a mother, right? Usually that's how people take it. So even if their smile is not noted, I think anyway. The point says they do not. Even though there was a smile on his lip, he will conceal it, and he'll ask me, will call from the field, and when did you start from there? Oh, when did you begin your journey? My little brother, carrying the tender saplings to be planted in the field where the plowing is done, will run when he sees me and call out loud within earshot of the house, "Mother, brothers arrived." So see, the first one, he's talking about his father's reaction, and in this stanza he expects what would his younger brothers reaction, seeing him coming back home. My little brother, carrying the tender saplings, the tender saplings of the rice, the paddy, to be planted there in the plowed field. He would be carrying these saplings to be planted in the field where the plowing is done. Will run when he sees me. So seeing me, he will run back and call out loud within earshot of the house. Reaching nearby the house, he will call out, "Mother, brother has arrived, brother has come." He would call out, expressing his joy in the arrival of his elder brother. Walking cautiously along the dike so as not to upset the basket full of seed, I'll reach home in good time at last, just as my mother drains the well-cooked rice. "Oh, train, will you run a little faster? Let me get home quickly and eat my fill." Walking cautiously along the dike. So my brother will be walking cautiously, taking extra care not to fall, so as not to upset the basket full of seed. He will have the basket with him, having the seeds. So he will be very cautious walking on the dike. Dike, a muddy path that separates two fields, right, on which people can walk through, right? You can see in the fields, if you go in the in nearby fields, you can see two fields can be separated with a dike, a small wall-like structure made of mud, a small one, right? That's called to be dike. Okay, so as not to upset the basket full of seed, I'll reach home in good time. And when I reach there, it will be very good time, because at last, just as my mother drains the well-cooked rice, so when I reach there, my mother would be preparing food for me, and she would be draining the well-cooked rice. And he feels that the train he is passing in, he's traveling in, is very idle, very slow, running very slow, and he asks the train, "Oh train, will you run a little faster? Let me get home quickly and eat my fill. I want to get my home and eat my fill. Can you go faster?" He asks to the train. Okay, so far we were reading the first part of the poem. As I said, the poet is talking about where is he coming from, what was there, and what is his expectation. How does he expect his mother to greet him, his father to greet him, and his brother to greet him, and how does he feel about the journey in the train, and all those things we discussed in the first part, and now it is the second part. Okay. The bus stops on the road across the house. When I left this place, palm-thatched houses could be seen in the distance on the right, but now there is nothing except for trees. How the place has changed. So the poet thinks, before I leaving this place to North India, there were so many thatched houses. Right, the bus stops are on the road across from the house. So the bus stops there. When I left this place, palm-thatched houses could be seen. There were houses having the roof made of palm leaves, right, in the distance on the right, but now there is nothing except for the trees. But now there are only some trees. How the place has changed. Rubber plants twice my height. There were rubber plants twice my height. Now stand in rows around me on the ridge. So rubber plants are there in the ridge. Right, in a row, there are rubber plants standing around me where modern and well-laden used to be sown. So it was there where modern and well-laden, different varieties of rice. So the modern and well-laden were used to be cultivated there. We used to grow modern and well-laden there, where now so many rubber plants are standing in a row. And confuse my path as I walk home. And now I get confused, which is the way to my home? I do not know the way back to my home. It has been changed a lot. Yes, there is no bustle of men below, no shouts of plowing, and when I look, the whole field is planted over with arecanut palms, and in the corner along the canal stand the dealwood trees. So there is no bustle of men below. So when I was there before years, I used to hear the sound, the shouting of people there, but nowadays there is no sound, no bustle from people, right? And no calls, no shouts of plowing. And when I look, no shouts of plowing, and when I look, the whole field is planted over with arecanut palms. So all the field where we used to cultivate paddy have been cultivated with arecanut palms, and in the corner along the canal stand the dealwood trees. In the corner along the canal there stand some kind of woods with dealwood. Dealwood means some woods that can be cut and that can be cut easily, right? And that can be made to furniture easily. That type of trees have been cultivated. I entered the house beyond the southern wing. My father watching them fixing up the machine for making rubber sheets. How happy and contented the look on his face. The poet entered the house from the southern part, and he saw his father, and he was busy repairing the machine. He was fixing the machine which is used to make rubber sheet. So they have stopped cultivating paddy and they have turned to cash crops like rubber and arecanut, and now he is fixing the machine which they used to make rubber sheets. And how contented he looked. His face is full of happiness and content, satisfied. He felt satisfied with his change. That's what the poet mean by how contented the look on his face. His father himself was so happy that they stopped cultivating paddy and changed to cash crops. My father says with obvious pride, son, we have stopped working on all the rice. My father says with clear pride. He felt proud of his activity. With clear pride he said, son, we have stopped working on all the rice. We have stopped working on rice. We used to cultivate different types of rice, right? But now we have stopped them all. It was quite inconvenient, It is quite inconvenient to cultivate rice. It takes a lot of a great amount of labor, toil it takes. The farmer gained nothing, only fools turned to rice farming for a gain. So I stopped cultivating rice. Only fools can do that. How hard work it needs. How toil, how lot of time you have to spend on it. So only fools turn on cultivating rice. Fools turn to rice farming again. This is better money. What good times. This is better money. The money that we make is selling rubber sheets and arecanut is good money. What good times. The government gives rice to those who do not have paddy fields, and for having rice we get it from government. We do not have to cultivate it for ourselves. We can depend on government. Government provides rice for those who do not have rice. So we don't have to farm rice. Instead we can farm the cash crops, which brings you a lot of money. My little brother runs in to meet me, eager to have a full meal of adhikira rice. He's carrying the rations for the whole household. He trips over something and scatters the wheat all over the yard. Now, seeing his arrival, his younger brother ran towards him. My little brother runs in to meet me, eager to have a full meal of adhikira rice. As in the beginning we said, the poet was very eager to have a full meal, to have his fill, the meal prepare of adhikira rice. And the brother he is carrying the ration for the whole household. And at the same time, his brother was coming back from the ration shop after getting all the products from the ration shop to his house, and he trips over something. So as he was running towards the poet, he trips over something, he falls, he tumbles down, and the whole and he scatters the wheat all over the yard. And when he falls down, when he was stumbled, the whole things in his bag was scattered, and he could see the wheat there spilled, the wheat scattered there on the floor, right? So the poet himself was fed up of having wheat and chapati there in North India, and it was his greatest intention, his expectation was to have his fill of adhikira rice. But what sight greets him here was, in front of him he sees the wheat scattered on the floor. That means here also the people have changed their habit of having rice, and they also started to depend on other people, other states, to have their fundamental things like having food, the basic need. Even for the basic need, they depend on others. That's the habit of Kerala has been, right? Before they used to cultivate rice and they were self-sufficient, right? Nowadays they have to depend on other states even for their food products. Yes. Above us, a ship of the sky rose northward, drowning my brother's loud cries. The chief ministers off like an arrow to the center to clamor for more grains, now flying high above the cash crops, now growing tall like the trees, since no one here promotes the farming of rice. So as they were talking, the poet listens to the sound of the sky, the ship of the sky. Ship of the sky means, yes, the aeroplane. He happens to hear the sound of the aeroplane. It roars northward, drowning my brother's loud cries. And the sound of the aeroplane drowns my brother's loud cry. He was saying that the chief minister is off. He's going like an arrow to the center. He's going to the central government, to meet the central government, to clamor for more grains. Yes, we want to get more grains. We want to get more wheat. And now flying high above the cash crops, now growing tall like the trees, since no one here promotes the farming of rice. As no one promotes farming of rice here in Kerala, the government, the representatives of the government go to central government to seek more help from them, to clamor for more grains to feed their people here in Kerala. Right, that's the condition of Keralites. That's what the poet wants to convey through the poem. Keralites have changed a lot, especially the farmers. They are behind cash crops, behind financial crops which will gain them a lot of money, and they have stopped cultivating rice. And for having food, they depend on others. And now the most satirical lines in the poem is, can we get some husk from the center too to make toys with it? I don't know. Then the poet satirically asks, oh, we depend on the central government even for our rice. Can we get some husk too? Right, even for rice we have to depend on them. And do we have to depend on them for husk, even to make some dolls for our children? We do not cultivate it here. So we will have to depend on the other people for the husk too. We are very poor in that case. So very satirically, very poignantly, very powerful arrow he sends towards the people, towards their change of attitude and changing to as a consumer society instead of becoming a farming society. Okay, that's the poem. So here we conclude the poem very beautifully. The poet conveyed the message that people have people are always behind money. They do not consider the need for food crops and the other basic things. They always behind making money, and this habit is to be changed. That's what the poet mean, and we hope you enjoyed the poem. Read the poem at least 2-3 times and understand the meaning, and try to prepare a short summary of the poem. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Crops which will gain them a lot of money, and they have stopped cultivating rice, and for having food they depend on others. And now the most satirical lines in the poem is, can we get some husk from the central too to make toys with it? I don't know. Then the poet satirically asks, oh, we depend on the central government even for our rice. Can we get some husk too? Right, even for rice we have to depend on them, and do we have to depend on them for husk, even to make some dolls for our children? We do not cultivate it here, so we will have to depend on the other people for the husk too. We are very poor in that case. So very satirically, very poignantly, very powerful arrow he sends towards the people, towards their change of attitude, and changing to as a consumer society instead of becoming a farming society. Okay, that's the poem. So here we conclude the poem very beautifully. The poet conveyed the message that people are always behind money. They do not consider the need for food crops and the other basic things. They always behind making money, and this habit is to be changed. That's what the poet mean, and we hope you enjoyed the poem. Read the poem at least 2-3 times and understand the meaning, and try to prepare a short summary of the poem. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.